watch party here on the watch list. You know who I am. If you've been here before, and if you haven't been here before, my name is right behind me. There it is. I know it's a weird font, but it's Jr. Hi. The nerds are here. Glad you guys are here. I got a chance to chat with you guys a little bit. I've been on time because I decided to stop doing too much. I had all kinds of time today, bro. In fact, I have two more stories that I wanted to actually add that I said, you need to calm down. Save those for another day, potentially tomorrow. But there's going to be a problem with me saving stories that I have halfway planned to tomorrow. Is there's going to be four more stories that are going to pop up for the rest of this day and overnight and in the morning that I'm going to want to add as well, too. It's a problem. I guess I just like, bad news and punishment because, that's what it is. So for those of you guys that asked things like, is there good news today? I did see, I think Abby Normal did say there's something good happening, tariffs shut down towards Brazil. I hadn't heard about that. I miss some of these things sometimes. So I'm glad you guys let me know. I have to look into that a little bit deeper to see to what extent and degree that's happening. Also, one of the stories that I was going to try and get in based on, this Gestapo that's running through American streets. What's that guy's name? Greg Bovino, the head of border patrol and security, whatever hell they're calling it. That Nazi, he was reamed in front of a judge apparently and told him that he has to come check in regularly with her. It was the scene that he made outside of that court that made the news, though. I was going to get to that. I just didn't get to getting all the videos and views on that available to show you guys. So maybe tomorrow. It was big news later yesterday, so I hope it still lives on tomorrow because I have some thoughts and some feelings about that, bro. Absolutely. My Dodgers lost last night. I'm sure you guys don't care. Maybe a couple of you guys do, but it's a tied series. As I said, this was going to be tougher than anyone thought. I hated when people said, oh, Dodgers are going to run straight through this team. No, they're not. No, they're not. Okay. Let's get things started. It's about top of the hour. I only have an hour to go. I can't run over today. I got to get the hell up out of here just at noon. So let's get started. There's things going on. There's thoughts that I've had. As I've mentioned before, there's stories that sometimes hang around that people have been talking about that I wonder if people will still be talking about. But developments always happen. I want to show you guys what's been going on with Donald Trump in this ballroom. Because as a couple days ago, I did say there's things that people are not really mentioning about this that I think are very important and I think very revealing. So let me break it down to you guys again of where this all started. You guys know he's been wrecking the East Wing of the White House. He talked about the costs. This is from maybe about a week ago, talking about the costs of this ballroom that he keeps saying is a ballroom. Here we go.
There's a relative, nobody's actually seen anything quite like it. I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million. It's set to do many, many things, including meetings of foreign leaders, including the honoring of foreign leaders. You can see this. This is a plan. If it's got tables so that you honor a foreign leader, we have a proper space. Right now, we have a space that with tables holds about 79 people.
There's Trump showing off some plans for his ballroom. But there's been some experts that talk about the costs of things like this, the builders of things like this, things like specifically ballrooms and how many people it holds and the size that they're creating this to be. We've already seen the lies about not wrecking part of the East Wing where he said it's not going to be touched. Then it was completely touched. We've seen thoughts about how many it would seat and the size of it. It's gotten much bigger than what it is that they originally said. They even said some people who know about these things looked at these plans and said they don't make any sense. These seem to be just mock-ups that are drawn without any real architectural thought behind it. There's a lot of weird questions surrounding this. Representative Mark Pocan, I believe of Wisconsin, stood outside of the White House since, the government is shut down and Mike Johnson is following Donald Trump's orders to not do anything about it. He talked a little bit more about what it is that he's seeing and how odd this is, including the cost.
That was the East Wing. For visual learners, this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing to this country. He's tearing it apart. I'm looking up a cost of a ballroom construction-wise is $200 to $400 a square foot. When you look at the $300 million, this 90,000 square foot facility is going to cost, that's $3,300 plus per square foot. That's 10 times the cost of building a normal ballroom. To ask for a permit after the fact to construct something, but not to demolish something, is really crazy. So I just wanted to stop here and show you this. This is really crazy how much we are spending. I want to know what we're getting. I serve on the Oversight Committee on Appropriations for this kind of spending. We've asked the president to send some folks in the White House to explain it to us. I doubt they're going to do that. Sad to see what's happening, especially when we don't know what's happening. And by the blocking off of every street around here, not many people are going to have any idea. Just wanted to show you a firsthand experience since Republicans didn't show up again this week. I got a little time on my hands.
Yes, I was right. Pocan of Wisconsin, talking about the cost, the sizing of these whole things, how everything's changing. Of course, the destruction of that East Wing that everyone is upset about. That, I believe, is part of the distraction, because this is where the developments of these things have come. If you haven't heard, there is this group. There's this board of members that oversees it. Mark Pocan even talked about how he's part of the Oversight Committee, and there's no such thing as oversight when it comes to a dictatorial-minded president in the White House. So this has also been done. Check this out. Trump on Tuesday fired all 6 sitting members of a board that oversees architecture in Washington, D.C. CBS News confirmed it as the president plans a slate of major building projects in the capital city, including that massive White House ballroom. Here's a quote. We're preparing to appoint a new slate of members to the commission that are more aligned with Trump's America First policies. That's what a White House official said. If you haven't noticed the pattern, every time that they're doing something that basically the dictator wants done, they say more aligned with America First policies. That's just a standard line that means Donald Trump wants it, because Donald Trump thinks he's the only person who matters in this country. He's also said that too. Anytime he talks about money coming in, it's money coming into him and anybody that he's been paid to give that to. Here's more. The Commission of Fine Arts had 6 members, all of whom were appointed during former President Joe Biden's term. This is important, though. The ouster is not without precedent. The Biden administration also replaced at least 6 members of the commission who were named during Trump's first term. So it's not unprecedented. It's not all that crazy to replace some members of this board. The weird part is what it is that you're doing with these new folks that you put in place, especially since everything we've heard from this president is that everything he does and everyone that he surrounds himself with are all based in loyalty, strictly loyalty, meaning they don't really have any positions here. They're here to nod heads. Here's more. It's not clear whether the White House intends to submit its ballroom plans to that Commission of Fine Arts. So why replace them anyway? Except to get out people that might not want you to do the things that you're planning to do, which has overseen some prior White House projects. The White House official told CBS last week that the plans will be submitted to the National Capital Planning Commission. No, I'm not familiar with the National Capital Planning Commission, but there's a reason why they're avoiding this commission that's supposed to be overseeing these types of things. As again, we've seen the lies that were told about what the plans were with it, the reality that's based after those lies were told, and then how he's looking to continue to build and add on more things that were not pointed out. No permits put in place, no oversight. None of that is really happening. Here's more. This project represents one of the most substantial alterations to the White House in modern history. That's what Representatives Jared Huffman, Robert Garcia, and Yasamin Ansari said in this letter. Here's another quote from them. The decisions were made in complete secrecy and undertaken without public disclosure or proper consultation. You see the differences here. So other presidents may change people on this commission, but what they don't do is do things in secret and then not notify anyone else of those plans. Or when those plans are being notified of in front of press and in front of cameras, they say one thing, and then when you look around, they're doing something completely opposite. And for some reason, people don't turn around and ask him, yo, why did you say one thing and then do another? This looks pretty nefarious. It's part of that nefarious activity. At a dinner earlier this month to thank private donors to the $300 million ballroom project that wasn't supposed to be $300 million. I think it started at $100 million. Trump marveled at how easily he was able to kick off construction. Here's a quote from him. They said, "Sir, you can start tonight," is what he told those rich folks. "You have 0 zoning conditions. You're the president." That's a quote from Donald Trump. It goes along with other quotes that he's said, where he says things like, I can do whatever I want. I'm the president. I'm the head of the military. I am the president. I can run New York City. Everything goes through me. I'm the president. I can destroy Washington, D.C. I'm the president. I can invade Chicago. I'm the president. I can send military into these cities. I'm the president. It goes along with that same thing where when he says I'm the president, what he's talking about is I'm the dictator. I'm the monarch. I do what I want. He said it even in front of those Navy officials, those Navy folks the other day when he was in Japan at the naval base. He also said whether they like it or not, these mayors and these governors will have to do what I say. So that's the energy behind this building, and how he's also adding on more things to it. I want to say one more thing about what is that NBC News had in the details of this before I get to what is that these add-ons are that I was talking about. Usually, this board that he just replaced 6 members of is tasked with advising the president, Congress, and the District of Columbia's government, quote, on matters of design and aesthetics as they affect the federal interest and preserve the dignity of the nation's capital. We know Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about the aesthetics or the dignity of the nation's capital. We saw that tacky ass gold plated stuff all over the I guess the Oval Office, somewhere all over in the White House. He just does things as he wants, and anybody that may tell him any different, he gets rid of. So here's those additions that I was talking about outside of just that ballroom, which, by the way, I haven't even brought up the fact yet that people are now realizing this. It's a bunker under this huge creation that he's putting over near the east wing of the White House, where that used to be, that they say completely expands the size, and it's larger than the White House itself. I wonder if you guys remember when he was talking about this addition that is not a ballroom.
What is this, Mr. What is this, Mr. President?
Thank you guys, Thank you all. You got this right. Thank you.
For who?
Thanks, guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Yeah, no, I know where it is, but who's it for?
Thank you guys. Thank you.
That'd be a beautiful.
The Arc de Trump?
Thank you.
What?
I think that reporter had it. He asked, what's this, this structure here you've got? This model of an arc. An arc did Trump? But Trump was very happy and excited to talk about his arc building. In fact, it's not the first time he's talked about it. Since that was sitting there, and for some reason, I guess nobody asked too many questions about it, he had to brag about it further with reporters outside at a different time.
Well, it could even be more than that. Probably, possibly, assuming we can do that. We're building the Ark, and maybe we use it for the Ark. Looks like we might. We're going to be building the Ark. Now, we've raised a lot of money for the ballroom, so maybe we'll put the Ark is going to be incredible for Washington, D.C. So maybe we use it for the Ark.
In addressing this ballooning cost of up to $300 million now for his project of what he said was the ballroom, he said maybe we'll use that extra money for the Ark, as if he didn't have plans to build this Ark. As you saw, that was like almost half a month ago. That was October 15th when that reporter asked him about that little 3D model of the Ark that he had as well, which was supposed to be built across the way from the Lincoln Memorial, because he wants to be memorialized. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but people aren't asking more questions about this Ark. I'm not sure if they're asking many questions about the bunker either. But as I was saying before, he talks to people that he likes and thinks has enough money to brag about this Ark. Man, he's really all over it. He's having a lot of fun. Here he is again.
It looked like in either of the three, any of the three sides, which is right now. I don't know if you can see it. So that's Lady Liberty. Lady, did you ever hear of Lady Liberty? On top. But so the sizes would be very good. That is Lady. And this is sort of facing this way. And so this is right line. They did this into that. So this would be small, medium, and large. And, whichever one will look good. I happen to think the large one's my fun. Why are you shocked? It looked like.
So as the sycophants sit there and laugh at him talking about the small, medium, and large arc that he's looking to build, the archways that he had Lady Liberty sitting on top for his glorious permanence in Washington, D.C., even after he's not here anymore, that's supposed to be funny. No questions about, so wait, why? What's the meaning of this? And as you keep saying, it's for Washington, D.C., why aren't you consulting with anyone else about this? Why is this all about you? Why, again, have we gone into this much more debt and deficit, taking in more of these tariff spendings on all these folks in America, jobs being lost, businesses having issues, and all this is happening. And he keeps talking about this $21 trillion of investments that he's brought into the country. What was it, $150 million given by that heir to the Mellon Bank fortune? Randomly that he said he's going to spend on the military, which doesn't make any sense. He keeps bringing in money and none of it goes to anyone else but him. But he's building multi-million-dollar construction projects as he destroys things in Washington, D.C. for his legacy. This is where it all comes together, you guys. This is what I've been trying to really get to, because anytime I see anything that's going on with this president and you wonder, where is this going? What you can always do is you can refer back to his spirit animal, Adolf Hitler.
Hitler worked on two major architectural projects. Number one was a ballroom. Number two was an Arc de Triomphe. Those two things Trump is now actively working on. Hi, Esther Kim Barrett, congressional challenger and art historian. Spent 12 years doing a doctorate at Columbia in the history of art and architecture. In 1939, Hitler also constructed for himself, with his architect Albert Speer, a ballroom to celebrate through architecture the triumph of the Third Reich. The similarities don't end there. The other major significant architectural project that he worked on with his friend Albert Speer was also an Arc of Triumph after his visit to Paris. Trump has also proposed that we build an Arc of Triumph in commemorating himself across from the Lincoln Memorial. What I'm telling you is that he is sending signs to the public that he is serious about his authoritarianism and his willingness to push fascist extremist ideas to the end. If we had more historians in Congress, we'd all be in a better place.
So that was Esther Kim Barrett. She's a congressional candidate and also, as she said, an art historian. You don't really have to believe her. I mean, you can just look things up yourself. After I did see that, I was like, I didn't know this about Adolf Hitler and the Nazis and him building these monuments for himself. But yeah, actually, if you look it up, Adolf Hitler did plan to build a gigantic triumphal arc for his redesign of Berlin. And I can't read what that says in German, but he had a name for it. So that monument, designed by his chief architect, Albert Speer, would have been considerably larger. I want you guys to keep listening to these similarities. Considerably larger than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and was intended to symbolize German power and victory. The plans were never completed due to World War II. Again, the Arc was conceived to dwarf existing monuments and demonstrate the absolute power of the Nazi regime. Hitler's interest in outdoing Paris was so pronounced that he allegedly told Speer after visiting the French capital, quote, "Berlin must be made far more beautiful. When we are finished in Berlin, Paris will only be a shadow." Do you guys remember when he came into Washington, D.C., and he said he wants to change all that stuff around? Remember how he just got rid of all these people on this commission that oversee things like the architectural normalcy of things in Washington, D.C.? Do you remember when he said he's going to clear out things and make sure that there's all these great, grand things for his triumph? It's literally the exact same thing. Along with the secret, not even secret police anymore, along with his Gestapo that's running through the streets, along with his detention camps, along with his soon-to-be concentration camps, along with him destroying the economy and blaming certain minorities that you're supposed to hate, a vast number of them. Gay folks, LGBTQ, folks with autism that they went after as well. You saw that whole thing. What they're going after is the exact same game plan that his spirit animal, the Nazis, always pulled off. And I'm telling you, on Inauguration Day, his fellow Nazi Elon Musk gave that Heil Hitler salute. And I'm telling you, Everyone decided to have a conversation about what we're seeing rather than a conversation about what we're going to do about it. So while we're talking, they're doing. I just want to keep pointing out all these realities. I feel like I'm living in some kind of weird alternate reality where I'm seeing everything in front of me, and there's way too many people who are like, well, I mean, it's not like it's exactly the same thing, even though it's exactly the same thing. And we're paying for it. I want you to look up things like Argentina and investing in Argentina, which we're also doing. See if you can find some similarities there too. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just pointing out what we're seeing. Take that as you'd like. And while you're taking that, go ahead and like this stream if you're enjoying it. I'm not sure if anyone's really pointing out the deep reality of what is they were seeing surrounding this whole thing and this massive bunker that I'm going to stop calling a ballroom that he's building, along with his Arc de Triomphe, which is the exact same thing. just in case we want to keep paying for that stuff while folks don't have anything to eat. All right. Let's move on to this next story. While the government's shut down and Donald Trump is rooting and celebrating that, in fact, telling his mouthpiece, Mike Johnson, to make sure that those Republican House members stay home and don't come back, because this is when he gets to have his hyperspeed of building up his authoritarian regime in the United States of America. The debate about healthcare and their lack of plans for it is building. Sometimes, they feel a little bit of pressure, but they send out people like Senator Bernie Moreno to lie about what it is that's going on and how they have a plan. See if you hear a plan anywhere in this conversation with Caitlin Collins.
Senator, you're saying that Republicans do have a plan.
Absolutely.
What is that plan?
Well,
I mean,
we have to have
can people see it?
Sure, we have to have PBM reform. We have to look at the ways that we have a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the healthcare system. We have to let the marketplace work. There's no transparency or competition. You look at some things like, for example, the Oklahoma City Surgery Center and what they're doing. That's really innovation in healthcare, more remote, having nurses be able to treat patients in a different way. The whole system can be looked at very holistically, but it's going to take 3 or 4 months to really bring a consensus to that plan. In the meantime, what are we going to do? Keep the government closed for 3 or 4 months every time that we have a policy debate? This is nuts.
Okay, so is there a plan ready tomorrow, or you're saying it's going to take 3 to 4 months to coalesce around a plan?
Look, we have different Republicans, for example, Senator Rick Scott, that's brilliant on this topic, that has a lot of amazing ideas. But yeah, of course, we have to build consensus. This is not a one-man show that runs the United States Senate. We have to bring Republicans together. It should be bipartisan. I think the voters expect us to work together on difficult things, but we can't have a gun to our head and have the government closed and people suffering, not being able to feed their families because the Democrats think it's good for them politically.
Senator Moreno thinks that he's good at this just because he talks fast and goes with these blame game normal talking points that Republicans are pushing. But none of that, he said, was a healthcare plan. Did you notice that? None of that was a healthcare plan. What that was saying we need 3 or 4 more months as things continue to destroy people's wallets and they lose their healthcare or look at bills that they just can't obtain. As we do that, it's all the Democrats' fault. We need to coalesce around a plan. Also, he brought up bipartisanship. At the same time he brought up bipartisanship, he went straight into saying, well, we can't be held with a gun to our heads. So when the other party that would make it bipartisan talks about things that you need to do to come together, to come to a middle ground, all these things, it's called having a gun to his head. But at the same time, it should be bipartisan. How the hell does something become bipartisan if you call bipartisanship at the same time having a gun to your head? That's denying the opportunity for any bipartisanship. It's just putting it in terms like the people that you're supposed to be working with are doing things that are crazy. When in reality, the question was asked, Senator Moreno, do you guys have a plan? Because that's nothing that he ever answered. And she gave him more chances.
What is someone who has open enrollment starting November 1st supposed to do in response to the idea that it would take 3 to 4 months to coalesce around a plan?
Look, Obamacare is a total and complete disaster. Having the COVID era.
But what's Republicans' plan to counter that? I think is my question.
I'm answering it for you. Look, we can't fix Obamacare in 3 months. What I'm telling you is that the COVID era subsidies are a tiny fraction of any increase. The increase is happening because Obamacare is broken. It's a complete abject failure. There isn't a single Republican that voted for Obamacare. This is a Democrat plan. You should ask the next Democrat that you have on, what is your plan to fix your healthcare plan? Because it's objectively terrible. We will bring competition to the marketplace. We'll absolutely increase transparency. We'll have PBM reform. President Trump has done a ton to lower prescription drug prices. We're going to have most favored nation status. We can do it, but we need to put together a coalition to make that happen.
I'm not defending Obamacare or the subsidies on that, but it has been 15 years. I know you've only been in the Senate. You're new to Washington, relatively new, but some people may say, well, there's been 15 years since Obamacare passed. We haven't seen a Republican plan to replace it.
Well, Obama was president for 4 years. President Trump was president for 4 years. And then, of course, Biden came in and made everything objectively worse. And by the way, you can't defend Obamacare because
you're
it's
acknowledging there was a Republican president in between those two Democrats who's now back in office.
In a very different situation. He only had 2 years of unified control of government. We got the most important bill done, which is tax relief for all Americans that stimulated our economy. It had not been for COVID, we would have been in a totally different situation. Had the President Trump had a second term that was consecutive, it would have been a very different situation.
He didn't answer the question. I want you guys to notice this pattern. Every time they're talking about healthcare and how they have no plan, they bring up a bunch of little aspects of things that also they're not doing. Where is that whole thing about prescription drug prices? Remember, Trump said multiple times he's going to bring down prescription drug prices by 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800%. And none of that make any sense? I'm not sure where that is. I also remember him being on the debate stage when Kamala Harris kicked his ass around, and then he said also he has, remnants of a plan, or like thoughts, concepts of a plan that he's got. I still haven't seen it. So when they're cornered, they bring up the ACA, Obamacare, again, which those subsidies are expiring. And that's why people are now on the verge of panic, not knowing what they're going to do, because that's been saving them to this particular degree. Obamacare, the ACA didn't go far enough. There was plenty of progressives that were frustrated with Obama and this ACA that they put forward and produced, because they were going towards Republicans. They were trying to have a bipartisan healthcare plan. And when they made those deals with Republicans, they left it open to be picked apart and destroyed and have holes in it that they're now complaining about. They think people are not supposed to remember. Something else they think people are not supposed to remember is that when those healthcare exchanges were offered to those states, states could choose to take part in those Medicare, in those exchanges, to lower the cost for their citizens or not. Republican states overwhelmingly chose not to. That hurts their constituents. That hurts their voters. It's done that for the purpose of, once those things suck for them, because they're not utilizing the entirety of the ACA plan, then their citizens go, well, the ACA sucks. And then people like Senator Moreno come forward and sit on CNN and say, doesn't the ACA suck? Well, yeah, y'all sabotaged it. That's the whole point. Politics are always placed over the citizens of this country for these particular politicians. That's how they operate. Now in 2025, they're talking about the Affordable Care Act and how it sucks because they sabotaged it. That was the whole idea. So now when asked again, where's your plan? There's more excuses. Did you notice? He's talking about COVID then happened. And while Donald Trump was in office, that's a totally different situation. She asked him, you mentioned Donald Trump had a chance. What did he do? He did not do anything. This guy brought up his tax plan in his first term, which also was a disaster for regular Americans. That's how they operate. That's how they think. Here's another. This guy's a congressman, not a senator. His name is Marlin Stutzman. He's also asked about the Republican health care plan. I ran all that long enough so you could hear the first guy's issues and then hear what Stutzman had to say as well.
Are you comfortable with healthcare premiums possibly doubling for your constituents? Time is running out, and there's an estimate that millions of Americans could lose their insurance if something isn't done about these premiums, right? So there's that issue. Go ahead.
I think that's more. I think that's just a Democrat, talking point to promote
No,
fear and to push people. There's going to be
No,
changes,
I
but
just
I'll say
I'll
states
cite the
like
source. I'll cite
California,
the
New
source.
York,
It's the
Illinois,
the
those are
think
the ones
tank,
that are
the
really
Urban
taking advantage.
Institute. Right. I just want to cite the source so our viewers know. It's the think tank, the Urban Institute. It estimated that about 4 million Americans would become uninsured after 2025 without the federal subsidies. And that includes 88,000 people from your state of Indiana. You also have Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene sounding the alarm about this.
Yeah, I mean, but Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't speak for, most Republicans in the conference. I mean, again, Speaker Johnson and Senator Thune and President Trump are going to be the leaders on this, not Marjorie. And so I think that what we need to remember is that Obamacare has been a failure over the past decade. And that's why our cost, right now, Pamela, our insurance and our healthcare industry, it's a wreck. The entire healthcare system is now in shambles because of the system that's been created over the past years under Obamacare.
Stutzman started by saying he doesn't even believe that healthcare costs are about to rise. They're about to skyrocket. That's a Democratic talking point. That's some kind of propaganda carried out by Democrats. After he was dispelled of that bullshit lie, then he moved on to then talking about how Obamacare is a disaster. Do you notice the pattern? Start with your first lie. When it gets exposed, go to talking about Obamacare, because that was the bomb that we put in place a long time ago to sabotage any kind of healthcare for Americans. So we could always say, look at Obamacare, it sucks. When they made sure that it sucks, this is them trying to cash in on that previous plan, that obvious plan where they destroyed things and honestly didn't allow it to be much of anything, which is why progressives at the time were upset with the Obama administration, talking about what kind of weak ass plan is this? This doesn't do much. It allows them to still do nothing. And the reason there was a debate over the ACA at the time is because the Republicans didn't want any health care plan. None. That's been their stance since the beginning. That's been their stance since the beginning. So once that little minor plan was put in place, they've been all about sabotaging it and saying, see, healthcare doesn't work. I'm going to show you guys what one of the people that's in Trump's whole cabinet now, Dr. Oz, the way he thinks about what healthcare should mean for the American people. This is a little bit too much reality for them. I mean, he accidentally said the truth. As they're talking about how healthcare sucks, this is what Dr. Oz thinks healthcare should be used and utilized for in the United States of America. This is the purpose of healthcare to Dr. Oz.
What the healthcare system should do is not just pay the bills. We should make you so healthy that you flourish in life and you want to engage the workplace. Getting America back to work full speed, getting you to work longer if you desire, that builds trillions of dollars of value to the GDP. And that's the goal of the health system.
And that's what you.
No, it's not. The goal of the healthcare system is not to build more money for the GDP, to make sure we have people working their asses off. I mean, if you have a broken ankle, you can't really, be a part of the cog of the system to continue to make sure our oligarchs and all the people running our politicians that paid for them to be run by them. We need more workers. That's the goal of the healthcare system to Dr. Oz. Isn't that weird? So because there's all this talk about the government shutdown, how Republicans don't have any plans, pressure is building on Mike Johnson. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Pressure is building on Mike Johnson and other Republicans. They're pretty afraid about this whole thing. So they're trying and they're scrambling and they're shooting themselves in the foot while at the same time acting like nothing is wrong, but then stuff is wrong. Here's where some things are going worse for them. There's a list of Republicans that are frustrated with Mike Johnson's strategy of ensuring Congress doesn't do anything while the government shutdown is growing. Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw expressed concern about how the House could make up for all the time it's spent in recess. That was from Axios that pointed that out as first. They had a whole conference call where they were getting shitty with Mike Johnson. So Mike Johnson's taking it from multiple angles, but they're not really all that mad. Here's more information. Johnson, who's also been at odds with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was brought up in that previous guy's interview, since she broke with him on the shutdown strategy, said that Republicans had been working day and night on healthcare solutions and whined that Greene shouldn't bash her colleagues online. And he asked her, how does that help us, Marjorie? Since you've been working day and night, you would think that some of these folks would go on TV and talk about the lack of plans from Republicans. You think they would have something to say about those plans for Republicans, but they don't have any. Every time they tell you they've got something, wait for the answer before you accept and move on. Here's more information about some of the folks turning on him. Republican Representative Kevin Kiley of California also expressed frustration with the House being closed during the shutdown. Also, Don Bacon of Nebraska said the Republicans should be negotiating with Democrats on Obamacare after that whole call where they got into Mike Johnson's ass. So there's a couple guys that are turning on him, or at least they're saying he should do something different, or maybe they should talk to Democrats. If there's Republicans talking about how we should be talking to Democrats, that means they're not talking to Democrats, despite the fact that that first guy, Senator Moreno, said we should have a bipartisan agreement on these types of things, except we won't talk to anybody because Donald Trump told Mike Johnson to not let anyone talk to anyone. Here's more. Here's a quote from Don Bacon. I do think we should be negotiating the ACA tax credits and have that compromise to put in the appropriations bills. Though the grumbly conference call suggests small cracks, this is what I was talking about, you shouldn't get too excited about. The GOP's shutdown stonewall doesn't yet appear ready to break. Johnson has maintained that the vast majority of Republicans agree with his strategy, while senior Republican House members on the call agreed that there's not a widespread revolt against Johnson quite yet. Just saying. We can keep looking for little pieces of good news, and I promise I'm looking for them. I'm pointing out how Mike Johnson appears to be cracking. I point out how Donald Trump also called him his puppet and how he's both the president and the Speaker of the House because Mike Johnson is his minion. Those are all, I guess, decent news, but Mike Johnson eventually might might be running into more of these brick walls with this snake oil salesman face, the smarmy sumbitch. But they mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene there, who I want to continue to make sure you guys understand. You shouldn't trust anything she still says yet because her actions aren't following them up. She's saying things. She's still supporting the president who's controlling this Speaker of the House that she said is the problem. Just want to point that out. But he did have to answer for some of the things that she's been saying about this shutdown and their lack of a plan. Once you hear what Mike Johnson, his pushback was on this.
We heard from one of your members today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wrote this morning that on y'all's GOP conference call, she said Speaker Johnson said he has ideas and pages of policy, but did not say a single policy plan. She said, I find it unacceptable that Republicans are sitting on the sidelines doing nothing to fix this healthcare disaster that is leading many Americans into financial ruin. That's her words. She says you're sitting on the sidelines. What's your response to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, bless her heart. That's an absurd statement. Obviously, these conference calls are monitored by media, so we're not going to have actual strategy discussions on a line where you have hundreds of people listening in because it would be reported on the front page. We have been working on this for a long time. We worked on it today. We've been working on it every day. Marjorie is not here in Washington. She's not on the committees of jurisdiction, and she's not involved in those specific discussions, but she will be soon because they'll be related to all the House Republicans. This was always going to be a discussion and a debate that was going to be held in bipartisan fashion, by the way, in the month of October and November. We know that the end of the year is the end of those COVID-era subsidies, and there's real reforms that have to be made if they're going to be extended. The Democrats knew that, the Republicans knew that, and it was always on the table for discussion. They have made that a red herring issue for now, again, because they wanted to show a fight against Trump.
Excuse number one for Mike Johnson. We're not going to talk about our healthcare plans, all these deep-rooted healthcare plans that we have ready to go. And just before that, he was talking about how they have to have some more coalescing around all of their talks. There's no plan, but that's the first excuse. The second one, since again, when you get cornered and you're asked again, so where the hell is this plan, Mike? It goes back to all those empty things that Senator Moreno said at the top.
Speaker, she's saying that the Republicans aren't doing anything to address the health care issue here that Democrats are arguing about. Are you saying that there is a Republican plan and you're just not talking about it?
No, I'm saying there's lots of discussion about it, but we don't relay it on a conference call with hundreds of people listening in. We have many ideas on how to bring down the cost of health care, to continue to do that, and we've already demonstrated it in the Working Families Tax Cut. We had real reforms to Medicaid that you and I have discussed that have brought down the cost and saved about $185 billion for taxpayers and made the programs stronger for the people that actually rely upon them, because we got ineligible enrollees off the program. We have many ideas like that to bring down the cost of healthcare and increase access and quality of care. And all that will be rolled out in the days ahead. We have plenty of time to do it. It was always going to be done at the last quarter of the year. And that's what we're waiting on. And that's why we need the Democrats in the Senate to stop this crazy gambit, do the right thing, and reopen the government so we can finish all that work.
And right back to the fraud, waste, and abuse lines, talking about how they've eliminated all these people who don't belong to be on the healthcare systems, which has been debunked about 1 million times. It's the same filing system of excuses, propaganda, and talking points that continue to get debunked. But the problem with debunking people who are committed to lying is that after you debunk it, they go right back to the lie as if you never pointed out and proven how much of a lie it is. They don't care about convincing anybody. They just care about talking about it long enough while they do the other things behind closed doors that they're doing. So that's why the arguments are unnecessary. He doesn't care about reality. He doesn't live in it. He's falling behind Donald Trump. I saw this right before I came on. It's always fun times to play Ted Cruz and the ways that he thinks he's actually appealing to people or makes any damn sense. Here's Ted Cruz. He got up off his knees for a second and let go of Donald Trump's ass cheeks, and he went on CNBC.
Well, Joe, my advice is don't spend much time worrying about Marjorie is saying. What I found is a pretty consistent pattern is that whenever an elected official decides that they're going to turn on Israel and they hate Israel, you will very quickly see every other policy out of their mouth become very, very liberal. And so suddenly Marjorie's for massive government spending and taxes, and she's for open borders and amnesty. Okay, fine. That is not where the American people are. Where the American people are is real simple. We're on day 29 of the stupidest shutdown.
Ted Cruz said that now that Marjorie Taylor Greene has turned on Israel, okay, now that she's done that, there's going to be all this litany of all these lib policies that she's all about. Suddenly she's all about open borders, tax and spend. This president, who's bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars into his pocket, who's profited $5 billion for his family, who's building the Arc de Trump and is building a bunker underneath the White House. I mean, after he destroyed the east wing of it, his ballroom and bunker under the White House has gotten Kristi Noem 2 new jets. You mean all that spending while people are losing jobs and their income is drying up and tariffs are costing them even more things? It's weird how the guy just runs through the same standard talking points, because that's what's always been said to people that just listen to them going, well, that's my team. He said that they're the tax and spend party, despite the fact that he's literally spending as much as possible on himself and all of his oligarch friends. It's weird how he just is dumb enough to think people are going to listen to that and pay any more attention to him. That's his answer, though, to Marjorie Taylor Greene and her turning on the Republican Party. She ain't turned on anything. So get that thought out of your mind, too. She's not turned on him at all. She likes to say things to cover her ass and make herself look good in the moment. I'm waiting for the action from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm waiting for that first. So that's the shutdown talk. That's the healthcare talk. I guess it's confusing and deep and long-winded enough for people not to pay enough attention to it. But they are still losing this battle over whether or not whose responsibility this is. We know how this operates. Let's move on to this last story. I got a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Since, again, every policy that this administration is pushing forward has to do with destroying people's lives. We went from remember the soybean farmer situation, how this economy and these tariffs and these taxes on people's prices of goods and businesses are getting destroyed. All that's still happening. And now the price of beef is the latest discussion. It's reached even the cattle farmers. Here's Brooke Rollins, the ag secretary, who also kisses Donald Trump's ass, trying to come up with excuses for that.
The proposal that the president has been talking about to bring in some 80,000 metric tons of beef from Argentina to try to get prices down. There's obviously a shrunken cattle supply here, which is the reason why prices here are going up. But a lot of these ranchers are feeling betrayed. Destiny Weeks, an Oklahoma rancher, said this: "It feels like a slap in the face to rural America. It makes you feel invisible and overlooked." And Justin Tapper, is the president of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, said a deal of this magnitude with Argentina would undercut the very foundation of our cattle industry. What do you say to cattle producers in this country?
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration on both sides. This president has made it very, very clear that his promise to bring the cost of living, cost of goods down, beef continues to go up. But then you marry that with you said it, John, we've got the lowest herd in 75 years. And there's a lot of reasons for that: drought, the screw-worm at the border, we've had to close the ports, et cetera. We consume 12 million metric tons of beef every single year in America. 2 million of that 12 million we have long imported. So the idea of importing a little bit more Argentinian beef from about 20,000 metric tons to 40,000 or maybe 60,000 out of the total 12 million will not do anything to compromise our ability to rebuild that cattle herd. For anyone to say, and again, knowing the frustration that's there, but there has been no one who has been more resolute, who has been more passionate about supporting rural America, about supporting our farmers and our ranchers than Donald Trump. And we see that over and over and over again.
Just some of the confusion I think that was caused with all of that was the president suggesting that the ranchers bring their prices down. And the ranchers said, you know, this is the market sets the price of the beef. They don't control.
Brooke Rollins, they're talking about how there's frustration on both sides when asked about how these ranchers now feel like they're being betrayed by Donald Trump. Is only her saying, defending Donald Trump in saying, well, he's frustrated by you guys too. There's new enemies being formed from this fascist administration. It's weird. The people who always supported them, who are now getting screwed and go, wait a second. Suddenly you're like, well, you guys are the problem now. The number one thing in a fascist organization and government like this, for all the minions that surround him, like Brooke Rollins, is to protect him. Like I said, the number one loyalty factor here is to Donald Trump, not to this country, not to the people, not to the constituents, not to the agencies that you run. It's to Donald Trump. So once those people that voted for this guy are upset and go, I voted for like division, racism, and bigotry. I didn't vote for me to be broke. What's wrong with you? They said, this is what's wrong with you. And now, you know, you put the guy in power and he's ruling over you and doesn't give a damn. Here's CNN talking about how they're struggling.
You're selling us out. That is the message from some U.S. cattle ranchers who are furious with President Trump right now over his new plan to import more beef from Argentina. The president says he's doing it, he wants to do it, to ease record high beef prices for Americans.
I put tariffs on things coming in to the country, including beef. And that gave them a chance to finally have a decent industry. The ranchers understand that. They're so happy for what I've done. I saved them.
Trump also adding that he loves America's cattle ranchers, but also says they, quote, don't understand tariffs. Now, some of those cattle farmers who overwhelmingly did support the president in last year's election are making clear that they do not agree with his plan.
Consumers will tell us when the beef is too high. I think it's outlandish for the president to come out and say the beef is too high and he's going to get it down himself. What is his problem with higher priced beef? Because consumers have a choice in proteins. There's chicken, there's pork, there's all different proteins. Consumers have chose to buy beef. President Trump ran on being a free market guy. So what he was saying last week goes totally against what he ran on.
It's just those ranchers don't understand tariffs like Donald Trump does. It always goes back to him. Have we not noticed that yet? No matter who it is, it all goes back to him. I remember, there's a quick little flashback earlier on in this administration when they started saying the H-1B visa, I can't remember which one it's called, and then Elon Musk wanted to bring in more cheap labor from people who are smarter than these dumbasses in the United States of America that we've undereducated and made sure don't have any kind of skills. And then when those MAGA supporters said, wait, what the hell? He said, go fuck yourself in the face, is what Elon Musk said when folks on X were upset about being silenced, banned, and not to be able to talk about how this flies in the face of this America First policy that this guy keeps talking about. They don't care about you. They used you. Matter of fact, remember that whole line that Brooke Rollins said at the beginning, where she said, Donald Trump is frustrated too with you guys? It wasn't a mistake. She said it again on Fox Business to make sure that those voters of his heard it loud and clear.
As the president mentioned, and he has said over and over and over again, he loves our farmers and our ranchers. He innately understands how important they are, not just to feeding and fueling our country and frankly the world, but also to the very fabric of this nation, the sort of that frontier, independent, hardworking spirit that they have. That is the best of America. That is from 250 years ago, and they represent that better than probably anybody else in the world. So ensuring that he can support the farmers and ranchers, certainly in the beef cattle industries that we're talking about now, and the consumer, these are not mutually exclusive goals. They can work together, but there is frustration on both sides. And I was with the president yesterday, and he is very, very frustrated because everything he's done to cut taxes, to bring down costs. And you think about the last administration, they were working to get cattle off the lands.
And it all goes back to saying he's frustrated with you. But don't forget, Biden. Are you that stupid? Are you that dumb? He just said it's your fault. And I'm free and clear. I love the ranchers, except for the fact that they keep doing this to me, trying to make me look bad. What's the matter with you guys? It was Biden's fault. Well, and it's your fault. And it's someone else's fault. It's never his fault. Have you heard him ever say that it's his fault? Here's another flashback. All these ranchers are upset, these cattle ranchers. Here's a post from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association back on July 4th of this year. That was around the time they were passing that bill that's screwing so many people. This is what they put up. The one big, beautiful bill has been signed into law with exclamation points. Thank you, Mr. President, for being a true friend to the America's cattlemen and cattle women. Is he still a friend to the America's cattlemen and cattle women? You posted about it. The big, beautiful bill that's fucking over so many people is not so much of a win for you guys anymore. I mean, that hasn't even really kicked into kicking your ass around. This is just his tariff policies that's destroying your life. And also his commitment to paying $40 million to Argentina, and then more commitments to taking tons of beef from Argentina, and then screwing you over and saying that those prices are your fault. That is while he gets on Air Force One and tells reporters, I'm getting the price of beef down. But as usual, with all of these plans and with his agenda and with his destructive economy, it's not just those cattle farmers that are dealing with what it is that he's done to them. As normal people realize, all these industries are linked. Here's another kind of farmer who's like, this guy's screwing us over.
And I feel bad for the beef industry, because the beef industry, they buy about 6 billion bushels of corn from us every year. And that's worth $25 billion of economic activity that goes back to grain farmers like me. And those poor cow-calf producers are finally getting ahead after being in debt too. And Stephanie, the American people need to realize that only 16 cents of every dollar goes back to me, the farmer and the rancher. And it's the packers who are making the money right now. And when I feel so bad for our seniors sitting at home saying, why are these farmers asking for a bailout? We're not asking for a bailout. Donald Trump did this to us. And unfortunately, we are hurting right now. We are the collateral damage to what's going on. And he had 8 years to plan this. Why did he put us in the crosshairs of this collateral damage?
Grain farmers too, because cows have to eat. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. I'm no farmer, but he's pointing out how they're all screwed and you're losing money. We're the collateral damage to this guy. I'm waiting for the tweet from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, maybe also the farming, the Grain Farmers Association, the soybean farmers. The soybean farmers are coming out hardcore against him, but nothing about how he's screwing us over, and there needs to be a national conversation about removing this guy. He's destroying us. But they're only thinking about themselves, of course, still again. But I mean, I guess that's natural for humans to do stuff like that. But all of this is connected. Everybody's getting screwed. But Donald Trump, again, thinks that bailouts are the answer, that's going to make everyone go, oh, well, he's taking care of those farmers and ranchers as he's destroying any kind of future endeavors for them, any kind of trade, because as he's pointed out, he knows more about tariffs than anybody else. Here's how much he's paying, and you should understand what it looks like. The Trump administration gave more taxpayer dollars to farmers harmed by the administration's trade policies than the federal government spends each year building ships for the Navy or maintaining America's nuclear arsenal. A National Foundation for American Policy Analysis concluded the spending on farmers was also higher than the annual budgets of several government agencies. Here's a quote. The amount of money raises questions about the strategy of imposing tariffs and permitting the use of taxpayer money to shield policymakers from the consequences of their actions. Because that's all it does. It doesn't help them. They all keep saying, we don't want to bail out, we want to work. So as the bailouts keep coming, because this was analysis talking about from back in his first term, you remember he bailed out farmers then too? It's weird how we don't remember. The same things keep happening, except now it's on steroids because he's taken off the guardrails. That's why he keeps firing anybody that says, well, wait a second. If you say that phrase, you're gone, because he's a madman and he wants everything he wants. And, you know, all the oligarchs that are paying him to do all that stuff. Here's a quick little table. You know, they said that these bailouts are costing us, again, us on top of these higher prices, all this money. At the top of the list, of course, Trump's aid to farmers. Department of State is second, but the Trump's aid to farmers, $28 billion of taxpayer costs. The next thing down is $26.3 billion to Department of State. Navy shipbuilding, which was pointed out in that quote. Nuclear forces, $21.8 billion. NASA is at $19.8 billion. You see the rest of it. But children's health insurance, Department of Commerce, Judicial Branch, National Science Foundation, Legislative Branch, all those things from his previous administration when he bailed them out are the numbers that you're seeing. But now, don't forget, they're also cutting even more. They're cutting all kinds of stuff. That's what Elon Musk's job was when he first came in. So we're still trying to figure out where all this money is going. Have you asked yet? It's definitely leaving our pockets. And farmers and ranchers are upset. But Donald Trump says it's your fault, because that's how he operates. I told you guys I was looking for some good news. By the time Friday rolls around, and there's hopefully there is, but if there is no resolution to this whole thing with the SNAP benefits, that's the next layer of destruction and anger and outrage. And healthcare costs skyrocketing on top of that. We're seeing the stacking of this destruction of this country. I want you to also remember how much Republicans always like to talk about how these Democrats, anybody that disagrees with them, are going to destroy this country. Their plan is to destroy this country. Where's this golden age? Where's the golden era that we keep hearing about? It ain't here. It's in the rich guy's pockets that's building an Arc de Trump for hundreds of millions of dollars. Just so you know. Okay. Oh, I finished in time. Look, I even got 5 minutes. You guys get an opportunity to go ahead and jump over to the damage report, get a chance to hang out with them over there, and not even come in late. This is the first time I've had 5 minutes to spare. This is crazy. Maybe I should have over prepared and talked for another 20 minutes. Either way it goes, I appreciate you guys. Happy Wednesday. Even though you still have a little bit of time to get over to the damage report, do not forget, let them know that you've been partying for at least an hour. 55 minutes at least over here on the watch party. If you guys enjoy it, go ahead and hit the like. There's a thumbs up thing there. Also share the stream, share the whole channel itself. Come back. All these stories then go up on the page later. You can get the full gist of it in case you missed anything, in case you want to share and let folks know what it is that we've been talking about. I think it's important stuff. That's why I started with what Trump was talking about with destroying Washington, D.C. and replacing it and rebuilding it in his honor. The city of 23 just got here. Damn. We'll see y'all at TDR. But I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Another midday stream. See you later, man.